So we have Chiranthi Cooray with us today. Chiranthi would talk about leading edge practices in human resource management in Hatton National Bank, right? Chiranthi, welcome.
Thank you, Nishit, for inviting me to talk to you today.
Thank you. So tell us, Chiranthi, what's happening in HR, in Hatton National Bank in Sri Lanka?
Okay, first let me give you a brief overview about what Hatton National Bank is doing these days.
Sure.
We've posted spectacular profits and results for the year 2016. So across the industry, the bank is poised for growth, seen as a very promising stock, and looking forward to a Vision 2020 strategic journey. Now in that journey, I'm going to share with you what we do in HR. So the first point that I would like to tell you is the HR strategy is very well in sync and embedded to the bank's transformational Vision 2020. So that gives us a lot of comfort that the platform is set right. Secondly, the CEO sponsorship for the HR function. Effectively, there's so much of buy-in, passion, and interest in looking at the people factor of the business at the CEO level, which gives again a lot of traction for us to do some very progressive HR activities, strategies, and turn into new cutting edge initiatives. So what are some of the new things we've done? We've just created this January a Chief Employee Experience Officer's role.
Interesting.
That's an industry first, and I think it's probably a country first.
That's interesting. So how does it work, right? How does the Chief Employee Experience role sit in with the role of the Chief People Officer? What would be some of the key deliverables of such a role? Because this is a very unique position that's gotten created.
That's right, because I don't think even right now in Colombo, the role of a Chief Employee Experience Officer is really well understood in its own might. Now, in a business, we have a Chief Customer Experience Officer. Now, the Chief Business Officer doesn't do the customer experience part. So, this is similarly bifurcating how you look at your people factor in the business and try to augment the employee experience in a bigger and better, more focused way. So, while the strategic HR delivery will rest with the CHRO of the bank, the CEO will look at the employee experience, and the two roles will harmonize to create a better workplace experience for people.
That's interesting. So would it lead to initiatives like, for example, a better employer branding for the organization? What do you envisage? What will be done to improve the employee experience over a period of time?
So let me articulate specifically on the branding and the value proposition. As you may know, HNB counts over 125 years of history. It's a large-scale retail bank, but also having a presence in high net worth corporate, international banking, as well as branch banking, SME and microfinance. Now, being such a big financial powerhouse, when you have a CEO role, which is an employee experience officer's role, what would we do differently is we look at augmenting the brand value and the value proposition. Earlier, before the new strat plan, we focused on stability, security and equal opportunity. Now, for the 2020 journey, we've arrived there. We are a stable bank. We're a large bank. We offer security. What do we really want to do new? So, what are we going to do as our new EVP? Purpose, value and inclusion. So, the whole purpose of it is just not a job. Beyond job. The whole purpose of one's existence. The whole purpose and the whole premise of value. You give value, you create value. Not just on the job, maybe to the industry, maybe to your entire stakeholder group, maybe to your country. So it's a huge big thing for us. And in that process, inclusion, from financial inclusion to diversity, and a whole plethora of things in the workplace as well.
Interesting. So let's stay on the topic of diversity for a minute, right? So So what's happening on that front, in your bank? Is that again a focus area for HNB?
Certainly, yes. Because as you know, banking is a transferable service.
Right.
So there's a lot of pain points associated with transfers.
Sure.
So much so that this time around we've renamed and retitled this transfer word, and we call it talent mobility.
Right.
And we've also actually for the last 3 to 4 years been focusing on creating a family-friendly workplace policy.
Sure.
So we have 37% women in the workforce.
Interesting.
But then, having said that, if you start transferring them out, it creates a lot of stress on the family ecosystem. So we have created a lot of inclusive policies for gender diversity, which supports women to stay in the workforce. Because banking is a very prestigious profession to be in, and we do not want our female employees to be quitting because they cannot manage their familial duties with the job responsibilities. So one thing on diversity is that. The other thing is the multi-generational. We have 4 generations right now in the workforce. Permanent workforce, or the FTEs, are about 4,100, and easily 4 generations. Some people count as much as 40 years of experience.
Wow.
Some are just 19 years and out of school. So it's very interesting and very diverse. And then also, although Sri Lanka is a small country, it's multi-ethnic, multicultural. Again, we have a very diverse ethnic workforce. So in every respect, it's a very, very rich blend of versatility, and we've been able to synchronize all these richness into one Hatton family. We call our team the Hatton family. So we are unified under the brand in a nice family concept.
That's nice to know. That's nice to know. Let's talk a bit about the whole talent attraction process, right? What's been the ability of the bank to be able to attract the right set of talent? Are you finding the right set of resources? Is training quite significant, to bring them up to skill to be able to do the jobs well, right? And what are some of the training initiatives that you may be doing?
Okay, so on talent acquisition, we are sought after brand. Certainly, banks always are. So we actually have a lot of supply, and then it's a matter of finding the right talent and the best fit. So we try to use a lot of technology, a lot of profiling as much as we can, and right now we are investing again into a very contemporary solution which helps us to better our onboarding practices and onboarding data analytics mostly. On the developmental side, we've taken great strides. As I mentioned, I think at our earlier session in the SHRM Tech conference, I wanted to say that we have invested in the first cloud-based app in the bank, because banking is not permissible. It's not permissible for banks to go into core banking solutions on cloud. But our bank's first cloud-based app was a learning and development solution. We went in to look at a ROI-based model. So we were easily able to onboard a very, very unique system, gamified learning, where learning is like a lifestyle. And initially there were worries. People were saying, in a multi-generational workforce, only the youngsters will onboard and be doing all these games and unlocking badges and, getting on with it. But last month, when I looked at my top 5 scorers, they were all mostly, actually 80% were Gen Xers. And that's very heartening. So just one guy in a Gen Y category, and there's like a 13.1% cross-sell on the programs offered. So for the head of L&D, a key metric is to see the number of product cross-sell on the virtual learning platform. That shows the efficacy and the ROI that you bring into your cloud-based solution. So on the programs again, banking training is pretty boring. I mean, it's not exciting. AML, KYC, if you trade a lot of Incoterms, it's very serious stuff. You can use the methodology to make it interesting, but the stuff is very, very, how do I say it, very serious, very, very sophisticated learning. There's financial modeling, credit analysis, risk. Now, it is through the learning methodology that you make it bite-sized, real-time, and fun learning. So that's what we aim to do.
So with growth, there is this key requirement of also building institution, right? Of putting in place the right set of behaviors and rewarding the right set of behaviors within the firm, right? So how does HNB in this growth journey integrate this into the growth story?
Well, that's a very interesting and important question. Right. Over the last 2 years, we've embarked on a journey of mapping out our entire competency framework. What are the leadership behaviors we want to see in the organization? What are the managerial behaviors we want to see in the organization? And we've engaged one of the world's leading global firms to assist us in completely putting together a new competency framework for us, which is linked to our performance management system. Right. So it's a complete re-engineering of what used to be there for about a good 15 years. And as a result of having the first 2 modules in place, now we are onboarding all our learning and talent development interventions onto that competency framework, which tells us, okay, what are the behaviors you like to see at a beginner level, practitioner level, and a role model level. So that is going to be our stepping stone. And then on the other side of behavior, talking so much about technology, digitalization, automation, we are also trying to onboard digital behavior into people. Now, how do you make your people digitally savvy? We talk a lot about technology. See, it's like this. It's like business etiquette. When people go through university and business school, they're brought into the corporate world and taught social, business etiquette, corporate etiquette. Just like that, our first course in digital literacy is digital etiquette.
Interesting.
You need to tell people how to behave in a digital world, in a digital ecosystem. So, starting from digital etiquette, we've mapped out an entire digital literacy index for the bank at all levels, right up to the C-suite. So there's awareness, appreciation, competent, master, expert.
Interesting.
Everyone, just because you're a C-suite, you don't need to be a master or an expert. But some guy down there who's doing a digital programming with a customer interface will need to be an expert.
Absolutely.
In some areas, I can only be competent. In some areas, it will be just appreciation. See, as CHRO of a leading bank in my country, I need to be able to have an intelligent conversation about how digital disruption will affect my bank's business, about bitcoins and blockchains and fintechs. So that is appreciation level in my role. But awareness is good to have. Competent is an icing on the cake. So we are really investing a lot in that digital journey, so that we will have digital learning wallets, we'll have digital classrooms, and at the end of the journey in 2020, we are committed to building a 50% techno-commercial banking professionals workforce within the bank. That's the end game for us.
All right. So you have your goals really well mapped out, right?
That's right.
Thank you, Chiranthi. It's been fantastic having this conversation with you, and thank you for sharing what's happening at HNB.
Thank you, Nishit. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for the opportunity.